We broke lesson 5.3 into two parts. So the first part was writing the equations in slope-intercept form. And now we're going to look at how do we graph them? If I have an equation in slope-intercept form, how do I graph it? And so remember the M stands for my slope, and you're going to want that as a fraction. You'll see why. We'll talk about that. And we know that our B is going to be our y-intercept, where the line's going to cross the y-axis. So I've listed 3 steps here. These 3 steps will help you graph any equation in y-intercept form. Step 1 is plot the y-intercept. Make sure you write these down. Step 2 is start at the y-intercept, and we're going to rise and run, whatever the slope is. And step 3 is just draw or connect. Draw the line and connect the 2 points. So let me jump in and show you. We're going to go through 3 examples here on practice with graphing. First off, I need to get down my y-axis and x-axis. I did put some grid lines on here for you, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a different color for those. So we'll label this one our y-axis, and then we're going to label this one our x-axis. And I'll use a different color to graph these. Let's go ahead and look at this first equation. Please don't be fooled by it. It's y equals mx. Oh, there's nothing. But our equation's plus b. Guys and gals, how do you represent nothing? 0. We could put a plus 0. Your y-intercept is just at 0. Okay, so we're going to start first with plotting that y-intercept. That's step 1. Here's my y-intercept. It's at 0. So I'm going to go on the y-axis to the point 0 and plot it. And I should label these. This one's going to be the number 1. This one's going to be 2. Each time, each line is going to represent one movement. So I plotted my 0. That was step 1. Step 2 says we're going to start at that point. That red dot I plotted, that's where I'm going to start. And we are going to rise and run. Let's take a look at our slope. My slope is 2 divided by 3. So we are going to rise 2 from that red dot, and we are going to run 3 and place a dot. So we're going to rise 2, run 3. We're going to place a dot, and we connect. And that's it. That is how you graph equations that are in slope-intercept form. Let's go ahead and look at the next example. Y equals mx plus b. Uh-oh, it doesn't say plus b. It says y equals 2x minus 1. Well, we know how to change subtraction to addition. Let's go ahead and get in that habit. We're going to change the subtract to add the opposite. Let's go ahead and get our axes labeled here. Whoops, that was a bad line. Let me redraw that. So we have our y-axis up here at the top. And we have our x-axis over here to the right. -1. That is our y-intercept. That's what we plot first. So I'm going to go down to the -1 and put a dot on the y-axis. That's step 1. Step 2 says we're going to start at that green dot I placed, and we're going to rise and run. Let's go ahead and look at our slope. Well, my slope's only 2. How do we write every slope, or I'm sorry, how do I write any number as a fraction if it's not written as a fraction? We place it over 1. This is why it is so important to leave your slope as a fraction. There is no need to change it to a decimal. So the 2 stands for the rise, and the 1 stands for the run. So we're going to start at that green dot. We're going to rise 2, and we're going to run 1. We're going to place a new dot. We're going to connect them and we're done. Rise and run. So we always want to change our slope. If it's not written as a fraction, we want to make it a fraction because we're going to have a rise and a run. These were both positive slopes. Let's look at our last example. Here, if I write it out, y equals mx plus b. Step 1 says start with that y-intercept. There's my y-intercept. I need to go ahead and get my x and y axis on here though. There's my y-axis. Here's my x-axis. So we're going to start at the positive 2 on the y. So I'm going to go up 2 and put a dot. That's where the line's going to cross the y-axis. That is your y-intercept. Now we're going to start at that dot and we're going to use our slope. Well, our slope here is a -1 over 3. So before we were rising, but our top number was positive. What do you think you're going to do if it's a -1? You're going to fall. So instead of going up, you're going to go down. So since this is a -1, we're going to drop 1 and run 3, place a dot, and you have now graphed this line. Connect them and you're good to go. That's graphing. Remember, we need to make sure that our equations are in the form of y equals mx plus b. We're always going to want our slope to be a fraction, rise over run, so that we can rise and run from our y-intercept. That's it.